You step into the world of Hawkins, Indiana, thinking it's just another small American town. But something's lurking beneath the surface that'll make your skin crawl.
The air feels thick, almost electric, and there's this weird metallic taste that hits your tongue when you breathe too deep. Welcome to a place where monsters don't just hide under your bed, they rip through the fabric of reality itself.
Picture this. You're minding your own business, maybe walking home from school or grabbing a late-night snack, when suddenly the lights start flickering. Not the normal kind of flicker you get during a storm, but something deliberate, almost like Morse code from another dimension. That's when you know you're about to meet something that shouldn't exist, something that crawls out of nightmares and makes them real. The Upside Down isn't just some spooky alternate dimension you read about in comic books. It's a twisted mirror of our world, where everything familiar becomes wrong, where the rules of nature get thrown out the window and replaced with pure terror. Every shadow could be hiding something with too many teeth. Every sound could be the last thing you hear before becoming monster food. But here's the thing that'll really mess with your head. These creatures aren't just random beasts looking for their next meal. They're connected, part of something bigger and more intelligent than you'd ever want to imagine.
Each monster serves a purpose in a grand design that's been years in the making, building towards something that could turn our entire world into a living nightmare. Let's start with the granddaddy of them all, the monster that kicked off this whole mess and still gives people sleepless nights years later. The Demogorgon stands tall like a twisted version of a human, covered in skin that looks like it's been soaking in swamp water for decades. But the real horror show begins when its face opens up like some sick flower blooming in reverse, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth that could shred through bone like it's paper. This thing doesn't just hunt for sport, it's methodical, patient, and terrifyingly smart. When it showed up in Hawkins during that first encounter, it didn't just grab the nearest victim and call it a day. No, it specifically targeted Will Byers, dragging him into the Upside Down for reasons that would become clear much later. The way it moves through dimensions like the revolving doors shows just how little we understand about the rules these creatures play by.
What makes the Demogorgon even scarier is how it seems to know exactly where to find the weak spots between worlds. Your house, the local lab, anywhere the barrier gets thin enough for it to punch through. That's where it'll show up when you least expect it. Regular weapons bounce off this thing like spitballs, making it nearly impossible to stop once it's locked onto your scent. But monsters come in all sizes, and sometimes the smallest ones are the most dangerous. Those little spine slubs might look harmless, like something you'd find in your garden after a heavy rain, but don't let their size fool you. These slimy black creatures are basically the seeds of something much worse, early-stage nightmares waiting to grow into full-blown terror. When Will coughed one of these things up after his rescue, fans immediately knew his story wasn't over. These slugs represent the Upside Down's ability to plant itself inside you to infect and change you from within.
They're proof that even when you think you've escaped that hellish dimension, it might have left a little piece of itself behind, growing quietly until it's ready to transform into something deadly. The transformation from slug to monster happens faster than you'd think possible. What starts as a gross but seemingly harmless creature quickly evolves into something with claws, teeth, and an appetite for destruction. It's like watching a time-lapse video of your worst nightmare coming to life, except you can't turn it off or look away. Speaking of things that grow too fast, let's talk about the Demodogs, the pack hunters that turn the Upside Down into their personal hunting ground. These creatures start life as those same slug-like things we just discussed, but given enough time and food, they morph into something that'll chase you down on four legs with the determination of a bloodhound and the killing power of a wolf. Unlike their bigger cousin, the Demogorgon, Demodogs don't hunt alone. They move in coordinated packs, communicating with each other in ways that suggest a level of intelligence that should terrify anyone who encounters them. When a whole group of these things descended on Hawkins' lab, they didn't just attack randomly. They worked together, cutting off escape routes and systematically eliminating threats.
The scary part about Demo dogs is how quickly they can go from seemingly cute pet to killing machine. Dustin learned this the hard way when his little slug buddy Dart started showing its true colors. One day, you're feeding it candy and thinking it's kind of adorable in a gross alien way. The next day, it's trying to eat your face off with rows of needle-sharp teeth. But individual monsters, no matter how terrifying, pale in comparison to what happens when the Upside Down starts getting creative with human bodies. The spider monster represents a whole new level of horror, not just because of what it looks like, but because of what it's made from. This isn't some creature that crawled out of a portal. It's constructed from melted human beings, twisted and reshaped into something that defies every law of nature and decency. Imagine watching people you know get reduced to their basic biological components, then seeing those components reassemble themselves into a massive spider-like abomination that retains just enough human features to remind you of who these people used to be. The faces embedded in its flesh aren't just decorative horror. They're proof that somewhere inside this nightmare, the consciousness of real people might still be trapped and aware. The spider monster doesn't just destroy everything in its path through brute force. It's intelligent, calculating, and seems to understand exactly what it needs to accomplish. When it tore through Starcourt Mall, every move was deliberate, every attack designed to get closer to its ultimate target. This thing isn't just following instinct, it's executing a plan that was conceived by something far more dangerous than any single monster. The most unsettling part about facing something like the spider monster is realizing that it could be made from anyone. Your friends, your family, your neighbors, all potential building materials for the Upside Down's twisted construction projects. It forces you to see everyone around you, not just as people you care about, but as possible components in the next nightmare creature that might come hunting for you. This is where things get really interesting, because we're just scratching the surface of what the Upside Down is capable of creating. Every monster we've encountered so far has been connected to something bigger, something that's been watching and learning and preparing for a final assault on everything we hold dear. The real horror isn't just in facing these individual creatures. It's in understanding that they're all part of a master plan that's been unfolding right under our noses. The masterminds behind all this chaos don't hide in the shadows like some cartoon villain. They operate right out in the open, pulling strings you didn't even know existed. Enter the Mind Flayer, a creature so alien and powerful that calling it a monster almost feels inadequate. This thing appears as a massive storm cloud made of living darkness, swirling and shifting like smoke that somehow gained consciousness and a serious grudge against everything that breathes. What makes the Mind Flayer absolutely terrifying isn't its size or its otherworldly appearance. It's the fact that it doesn't need to get its hands dirty to destroy you. This creature operates like a puppet master, reaching into people's minds and turning them into extensions of its will. When it took control of Will Byers, it wasn't just possessing him for kicks. It was using him as a spy, gathering intelligence about our world through his eyes and experiences. The scariest part about facing something like the Mind Flayer is that you might not even know you're under attack until it's too late. It doesn't announce itself with roars or dramatic entrances. Instead, it slips into your thoughts like a whisper, slowly taking control until you're no longer calling the shots in your own life. By the time you realize what's happening, you're already part of its hive mind, just another soldier in its army of the possessed. But the Mind Flayer's true genius shows when it starts building weapons out of human flesh. It doesn't just kill people, it recycles them, melting them down and reconstructing them into whatever nightmarish tool it needs for the job. That's how we end up with creatures like the Hospital Monster, a writhing mass of twisted bone and muscle that used to be two separate human beings before they got the upside-down makeover. The Hospital Monster represents everything wrong with what the Upside Down does to people. You can still see the faces of its victims embedded in the creature's flesh, their expressions frozen in what looks like eternal suffering. It's fast, incredibly strong, and has this disturbing ability to pull itself back together even after taking massive damage. Fighting this thing isn't just about survival. It's about preventing more people from becoming raw materials for the next abomination.
What really gets under your skin about the hospital monster is how it moves and thinks. This isn't some mindless beast stumbling around looking for food. It hunts with purpose, tracking its targets through the hospital corridors with the single-minded determination of something that knows exactly what it needs to accomplish. Every swipe of its claws, every charge through a doorway, it's all calculated to corner and eliminate specific threats. Now, let's talk about someone who started as a human being but became something far worse through a combination of supernatural power and pure evil. Henry Creel seemed like just another kid with psychic abilities until his true nature revealed itself in the most horrifying way possible. After Eleven banished him to the Upside Down, that twisted dimension didn't kill him, it transformed him into something that makes every other monster look like a warm-up act. Vecna emerges from this transformation as the ultimate predator, a creature that doesn't just kill people, but torments them first.
His method of execution is so brutal and personal that it makes you wish he'd just eat his victims like a normal monster. Instead, he digs into their deepest traumas, forces them to relive their worst memories, and then snaps their bones while their eyes are still open and aware. The way Vecna operates shows a level of psychological sophistication that should terrify anyone who values their sanity. He doesn't pick random victims. He specifically targets people who are already struggling with guilt, trauma, or depression. It's like he can smell emotional vulnerability from across dimensions and uses it as a roadmap to break people down from the inside out. But Vecla's ultimate plan goes way beyond individual murders. Every person he kills creates another crack in the barrier between worlds, slowly merging the Upside Down with our reality. He's not just some serial killer with supernatural powers. He's an architect of apocalypse, methodically working toward a future where the two dimensions become one nightmarish landscape under his control. The really messed up part about Vecna is that he was human once, which means he understands exactly how to hurt people in ways that purely alien monsters never could. He knows what scares us because he used to be one of us. That human intelligence combined with otherworldly power makes him the perfect predator for psychological warfare. Even the environment of the Upside Down itself seems designed to mess with your head. Those vine-like tendrils that cover every surface aren't just decoration. They're alive, watching, and connected to everything else in that dimension like a massive nervous system. Walk through the Upside Down, and you're not just traveling through hostile territory. You're moving through the body of something that's aware of your every step. The vines respond to movement and sound, but they're not aggressive in the way you'd expect from a typical monster. Instead, they're patient, almost curious, like they're studying you before deciding what to do next.
When they do strike, wrapping around throats or limbs, it feels less like an animal attack and more like the dimension itself deciding you've overstayed your welcome. What makes these living tendrils so unsettling is how they connect everything in the Upside Down into one massive organism. Touch one vine and you might be sending a signal to creatures miles away. Step on the wrong tendril and you could be alerting every monster in the dimension to your exact location. It's like trying to sneak through a house where every floorboard is connected to an alarm system. Flying monsters add a whole new dimension of terror to the Upside Down experience. Demobats might be smaller than their ground-based cousins, but what they lack in individual size, they make up for sheer numbers and aerial advantage. These things move like a living cloud of teeth and claws, swarming their targets with the coordination of a military strike force.
The sound of Demobat wings fills the air, like a twisted version of birds migrating, except these birds are coming to strip the flesh from your bones. They attack from above, below, and every angle in between, making it nearly impossible to defend yourself effectively. Even if you manage to kill a few, there are always more circling overhead, waiting for you to make a mistake or show weakness. Human possession takes on a whole different meaning when the Mind Flayer gets involved. The Flayed aren't just people acting strange, they're walking shells of their former selves. Their personalities completely overwritten by alien intelligence. At first, they seem almost normal, just a little off in ways that might make you think they're having a bad day or dealing with personal problems. But as the possession deepens,
These people become something far more dangerous than any monster crawling through portals. They retain their human appearance and knowledge, making them perfect infiltrators who can walk among us undetected until it's time to strike.
When Billy Hargrove fell under the Mind Flayer's control, he became a recruiter, luring others into situations where they could be possessed or killed. The tragedy of the Flayed is that somewhere deep inside their controlled minds, the real person might still be aware and screaming. They're prisoners in their own bodies, forced to watch as something else uses their hands to hurt people they care about. That internal struggle occasionally breaks through, creating brief moments of humanity that make their condition even more heartbreaking. This entire network of monsters, possessed humans, and living environments works together like a well-oiled machine of terror, each component serving the greater goal of consuming our world and everything in it. So there you have it. Every nightmare creature that's crawled, slithered, flown, or possessed its way out of the Upside Down and into our world. From the face-opening terror of the original Demogorgon to the bone-snapping psychological warfare of Vecna, each monster represents a different flavor of horror designed to exploit our deepest fears and weaknesses.
What makes these creatures truly terrifying isn't just their individual abilities to kill and destroy, it's how they all connect to form something bigger and more intelligent than the sum of its parts. The Upside Down doesn't just throw random monsters at us like some twisted carnival game. It studies us, learns from every encounter, and adapts its approach to be more effective at breaking down the barriers between dimensions. Every spine slug that grows into a demo dog, every person who gets flayed and turned into building material for the next abomination, every vine that spreads the hive mind's influence further into our reality, they're all pieces of a master plan that's been decades in the making. The real horror isn't facing any single monster, but realizing that each encounter is just preparation for something infinitely worse. As we head toward the final season, one thing's certain: the Upside Down isn't finished with Hawkins, and it's definitely not finished with us. Sweet dreams, and remember to check your lights for any unusual flickering.